Hello, welcome back. Um, yeah, another little update for Data Monsters. Going to be a lot of those until I get more free time. But I do want to actually talk about what I plan to do with the game, where I'm at right now, and all that stuff. As you can see, I've just got the game running here. There's not really much happening, but you can see I've got a new character here, and I added like a sleeping, sitting pose. Here, let's stop it. You can see everybody resets, and I can press play, and they go back to the pose. And then later on, I'll add my animations and all that. Now, really, where I'm at is kind of a weird spot because I only ever really want to start working on something that has a scope that has a scope within my working hours, right? Within my time frame. And I'm so early in on development that everything is very slow because every single system I build, I am attempting or trying to build for the future. I want to make sure that every system I use now can be reused later. Like the same, every NPC is going to be able to access the same sort of systems, to be able to do the same sort of things, but still do their own thing and be unique. Anyhow, so I was sort of working on the NPC systems and they're off to a start. There's things that need to be done. Like I have started a dialogue system, which I think I did another video about it. But here, if I turn this on, I sort of have these like floating text. This is higher than it's supposed to be. I have to fix that. There's some funny things going on here with it. But originally, I sort of had this idea of like floating text. Because again, I want this to sort of feel like an old game, but in a VR context. I really like the idea of old things that have been contemporized, if that's a word, made new. And that's kind of the feel I want to go for. I want it to feel like I'm in a game from the 90s, so to speak. Anyhow, I don't know if I'll stick with this like floating text box thing. I might make a HUD. We'll see how that goes. But which brings me to the actual player. I think the next steps I'm going to be working on is I'm going to put the NPC stuff aside for a minute, and I want to really start fleshing out how the player starts the game. Right now, it's just when I go into VR, it's just the little joysticks or whatever, the controllers. So I need to start adding hands or body or whatever. And that's what I've already kind of started that. We have these like ghost bodies here. Essentially, the main NPC here, Maxi, is going to introduce you to the world, and then basically what they want you to do, etc. But then they're going to be like, well, you can't go out there looking like that. You need to have a body that people can recognize you with, and then your character will come over here and pick a masculine or feminine body, and then edit it or whatever. And then ideally, I will do full body VR. But that's a big ideally. Like, since I'm doing everything more or less from scratch, with the exception of a few like models here and there, I would have to start building some inverse kinematics things in order to have that full body, which I'm sure I could learn and do. But how intensive that is and how long it'll take, I don't know if it's worth it, ultimately. But at the very least, the player will have hands and I think a head. But instead of a face, even with these bodies, I'm not going to do a face for the player. I think I'm going to do collectible masks. So your player will have a mask and then maybe they can edit it, or maybe they can find other masks around the world and put them on. I don't know. But another thing that I didn't have this idea before, but had it now, is I think I'm going to make it so that the player can come back to the lab whenever they want to and change how they look, even their body. And the idea being that certain other NPCs you talk to might be influenced
one way or another depending on your looks. So you can sort of basically the idea is to give the player more options to solve problems that involve dealing with NPCs. Like if you're stuck in one place and somebody's giving you a hard time for whatever reason, you might want to come back, change your appearance, go back out, and they might think you're sort of a whole new person and be a little easier on you or whatever. And yeah, I think that would be a really interesting sort of mechanic to have to traverse the world and solve problems in different ways. Now, I wouldn't make it so that it can only be solved that way. In my opinion, there should be more than one solution to every kind of problem you get, even if it's just one other solution. But I think it would be a cool option to have for people who are interested in that sort of thing. And this sort of methodology or philosophy also is going to play into the very first mission that you do. So once I have all the character customization stuff done and the player's able to set up and I can have movement and stuff in the world, well, I already have movement, but I mean like hands or body or whatever, then I'm going to start working on the first town. And like with not every, but with like most monster collector games, there's going to be starter monsters. However, the way you get your starter monster, I want to be sort of elusive as to why you ended up with what you did. So most games, you talk to a person, they go, here's your 3 options, and then maybe they give a little bit of details and you pick one. I don't want to do that. What I want to try to do is basically the first mission, they're going to send you to this town to sort of debug your first daemon or whatever. And it's going to be kind of vague. Like they're going to send you there with some idea of what you have to do, but then you're going to have to go into the town and explore or talk to people to find out the problem, solve the problem, and then by solving the problem, you'll have collected your first monster. But what I want to do is sort of have the physical appearance and gameplay style of certain monsters be in locations or be obtainable in such a way that it would match the player's playstyle. So like, for example, if you are the type of player who likes to look in every nook and cranny for everything, well, then that option of monster for your starter is going to be hidden in some hard to find place. Hopefully I can sort of match the aesthetic of that monster with the identity of that player. And then this would go for other things. Like maybe you're someone who likes to talk to a lot of NPCs in games. Not me, not a huge fan of that, but I do appreciate and see the value in it. And maybe that type of person who likes to interact with all the NPCs, they'll get their monster through those various interactions. Like a chain set of interactions will lead them to a certain thing. Or maybe you're the player who likes to do the most obvious thing. Well, there'll be a monster for you there as well. And that's all what I have planned to build next. But that's a lot to do, right? We're talking about systems that are open. There's options to do things. There's more than one way to do things. I still have to build the actual entire environment. So I've got to build a town. Now, the town's not going to be massive. I've said it before and I'm saying it again right now. I do not want to make Pokemon, but I do have a lot of inspirations from it. And I also see the value and limitations. So when I say build a town or a city, I'm thinking like a 90s Pokemon town or city where they're not massive. There's a couple buildings, maybe like 5 buildings for a town. And then in the city, maybe you have 10 or 15 buildings. Not a super dense, jam-packed thing. A lot of the environments in this game are going to be very plain. I'm not going for maximalism. I don't think I'm going for minimalism either, but I'm going for an as-needed basis. Like if there's an item that you can use, that will be there, and then maybe 1 or 2 distractors to make it harder to find the item if it's supposed to be a mystery. But it's not going to be like like not a Skyrim where you're opening drawers and there's potions everywhere and you can pick everything up and do everything. No, like if I want to have hidden items in trash cans, well, the very first trash can you see is going to be interactable and it will have an item in it. Or maybe instead, I would say something like this. The very first trash can you interact it with will have an item in it in order to signify, to verify to the player that, hey, you can find things in here. You have been rewarded for your exploration. But then the subsequent attempts might be randomized or some kind of a dice roll so that you might get it or you might not. But yeah, I think I got a little messy in my explanations here, but I'm just trying to talk about my philosophy for what's coming as soon as possible. Soon is not the right word, but as soon as I can. Things are going to be slow for 6-7 months. And then I'll have some more time again and I'll really go hard and get things going. But yeah, and then after I do the town, I'm going to start working on monsters. And the monsters, I actually will have to do some inverse kinematics for the monsters because I plan on doing procedural animation. Or maybe not. Maybe I will do custom animations for the monsters. I think custom animations in the long term is going to be more work. Procedural animation in the short term will be more work. But I will learn a lot more from doing the procedural animations. I think it'll give me more flexibility, not flexibility, it'll give me more reusability, but ultimately might make everything very samey. Whereas if I do custom animations, I can make things a lot more unique. I don't know. We'll see how that goes, but I also have to design the monsters. If you go through some of my really old videos when I had originally tried doing this before knowing any code at all, you can see some monsters I made at the time it was called Google Blocks. Now, luckily, some beautiful person out there made it accessible again because Google open sourced it. So I don't think I'll be creating the monsters in that interface again. I probably just use Blender, but I don't know. Maybe I will because I really like the idea of having the monsters look a little bit out of place, like they don't quite fit in the world. But I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, that was just a quick update, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.